This is a fight for freedom of speech, and I'm taking on this giant company based in Norway, and it's scheduled to go a full 20 days. So I'm going to fight them to the bitter end. The editor of a Swedish fly fishing magazine published the cigarette papers involved in this lawsuit just today. They can't muzzle free speech. They can't stop the truth from coming out. We've got press pickup around the world, growing public interest. They launched this lawsuit, this slap suit, in March, and from the very outset, they had very little substance to their complaint. But what they did on the first day of court was persuade the judge that they wanted to fight this issue on a very narrow field of battle, just the issue of cancer-causing contaminants. So they originally, when they launched the lawsuit, they complained about 50 statements about maybe 30 cigarette packets that involved environmental issues, food safety issues around the world, and then they retreated into a corner. They withdrew those claims, and now they're fighting on what they call the sting associated with those statements. So what they mean is that the worst possible meaning of statements like salmon farming kills. And nowhere in the cigarette packets do I name the company. So here I am in court. I'm fighting against a company I did not name and trying to defend statements I didn't even say. But at the end of the day, even when the rules are stacked against me and that they're bending the rules, they're moving the goalposts, this is a brutal, bloody encounter. This is going to go right to the bitter end, to the 20th day of the trial. A judgment will come down probably in the summer. But this is a case that will live on, and by suing me, they brought global attention to themselves. I'm being deported at the end of February, which I think is political intimidation from the Canadian government, who are branding environmentalists as radicals. I'm going to the belly of the beast in Norway and fighting on their home turf, and we're going to take down Norwegian-owned companies, not just in Norway and here in Canada, but in Chile, Scotland, and Ireland, and bring global attention to Norwegian companies and salmon farming. I took the witness stand a couple of days ago, so maybe this is day 3 of my testimony. My lawyer is leading me through the evidence. This is our defense. Previously, the plaintiff, Cermaq, they called 10 witnesses. Earlier this week, on Monday, we started our defense, and we tried to call an expert witness in Dr. John Volpe, but Cermaq's lawyers persuaded the judge that his expert witness and testimony wasn't needed. An expert report that he wrote wasn't required, so that was thrown out, whereas expert reports that they had written for them were allowed in. So I took the stand, and maybe tomorrow, Friday, the plaintiff, Cermaq, will start to cross-examine me, and I may be giving testimony for 2 or 3 days with them, maybe 2 days until Monday or Tuesday. This really is a David and Goliath battle. My lawyers called David, their lawyers called David. We're going to find out who wins, or who is Goliath and who is the real David. We'll be finding out next week. And if they win here in British Columbia, what they're seeking is $125,000 in damages, but they're also seeking an injunction, a gagging order. I hope that people support the case. We still have maybe $20,000, $30,000 to find to pay my lawyer. It's not free to defend free speech. The defense of freedom of speech is very expensive, but I think this case is worth fighting for. This is not just about salmon farming. This is not just about this particular case. What these corporations are trying to do is they're trying to abuse the law, and this erodes the freedom of speech and the scope for criticism that everybody has, especially here in British Columbia, where you're seeing bullying by corporations like Enbridge and Imperial Metals and the corporation behind the Prosperity Mine. They're trying to come into British Columbia and erode free speech and bully people into submission. So I think the public need to stand up for themselves and not be afraid to take on the corporation, because at the end of the day, we all know that David beats the giant Goliath, but it's for people to stand up. And if you've seen the courtroom today. It was packed full of wild salmon warriors, wild salmon people who have come across from around British Columbia to the courthouse, and it's really catching fire on Facebook and Twitter, and people do support this from around the world. So people power will win at the end of the day.